So, ladies and gentlemen, fanboys and girls, nerds, geeks, and otaku, welcome back and welcome home.
Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite, Written Ralph, talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take out a bite out of the apple and share it with you. And right now we have John and Kristina Garlick. Well, John, Avina, and Kristina Garlick. And we are going to be talking all about New York Comic Con and John's beautiful work and Kristina's beautiful work. You know, John, let us start with you because you're the new guy here on the panel. So who are you? What do you do? Give us the spiel.
Sure. I'm John Avina. I am a comic book writer from Chicago. I'm also a mortician. I do that as well to pay for making the comics. I started in 2020. My son was going to be born in October. And I knew if I didn't start doing something creative by the time he'd be born, it'd be too late for me to jump into it because it'd be too much pressure to like balance fatherhood and a kid and all that stuff. And I just started writing like crazy. And I got my first comic out there. My son was born. And then for the last 2 years, I've been doing conventions, traveling, going to shows with the family, all that stuff.
Dude, I gotta say, like I've had a chance to dive in and do. Well, I'm a writer, so I do a lot of research, and I just dove into all the stuff you have, and you're really working it, bro.
Yeah, I've done 36 books in 2 years.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really put you're grinding it. You're working it, man.
Yeah.
And I love your books are like. They're not just one thing. They're in a bunch of different places.
Yeah, I mostly do horror. I love scary things. I've always loved scary things. I think it's why like funeral directing never bothered me. And like I just put all that stuff into the comics. That comic that you're showing right there is Lucha Forever. And it's a story about a dad who takes his family and decides to give up his life as a wrestler to make it as an actor. Like a real like Hulk Hogan type. Like he just wants to act, do that kind of stuff like The Rock. And it all goes sideways. And on the day he's ready to sell that mask and kind of leave it all behind, there's like this giant alien invasion, and now he's got to save the world. So he's like a reluctant hero who has to choose between like doing the right thing and doing the selfish thing. And more often than not, it turns into the selfish thing. But it was like a good outlet for me to like get that. I want to be I have to be a dad, but I need to tell stories, and this was a story that let me deal with that kind of stress.
I can see it. It's that whole idea of this is, because as a parent, you start to realize, and I tell people this all the time, make sure you want to have kids because this is a sacrifice and a half you're about to do when you have this child. This is once you have that child, it's all about that child. And people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no. It is. Once you have a child, it's all about
Yeah. Every waking moment till like that kid's asleep.
Yep.
It's just all right, gotta make sure he eats, gotta make sure like we're potty training. Everything's gotta get done, homework, everything. So then it's like, all right, I'll write at 9 o'clock at night and wake up for like my 4 o'clock shift and we'll take it from there. Yeah.
So, do you do the drawing as well, or just the writing?
Just the writing. I can't draw to save my life. I've tried my whole life to draw, and I can't. Like, I've made jokes about it. Like, I try to draw when people order online. I'll write like a little thank you card and draw a characterized version of me, and everything comes out terrible. Like, yeah.
I feel you because I've had to tell artists what I want, and I do those little doodles where okay, this is what I'm trying to do, and I'm always like, don't ever show this to anybody.
I always tell them, I was like, this is gonna look terrible, so like, do this better. Yeah, I wish I could draw though. It'd make my life a lot easier.
Same thing here.
Yeah.
You know, and I always envy those guys who can draw and write, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there would be so many projects I'd be doing.
Yeah, I was like, if I could draw and I didn't have to pay an artist, all I would do is get books done.
Yeah.
Well, I say that, but like as a writer too, I procrastinate all the time.
Yeah.
So I'd probably be doing that too, but I'd have more time to get stuff done.
That makes sense. I mean, I would probably do children's comics and then write books if I could draw.
Yeah, I've wanted to do more kid friendly, like that Mighty Kamazotes is an all age comic that we've done. So I am like gearing into doing that just because like I have a kid and a lot of kids will come to my table and I want to have some stuff for them. So I'm slowly working that way, but it's like I can't draw it, so I am on the mercy of my artists to get stuff done.
That makes sense. I mean, it'd be great if you could, write a story for your son that he can pass down to his kids one day, kind of like a bedtime story.
Yeah, that Mighty Gamazotes one I wrote for him. Like even it's the only book that has a dedication at the front of it. So like when people open it, the first thing they're gonna see is like a note that I wrote for Ben. That was like, no matter when you see this, like I still love you, kind of a thing. So like it's in there for him. Yeah. So I did that for him, and then I was like, oh, I should make it a series, and then I had to stop myself. I pumped those brakes.
I feel you. I've done a couple things that are all about my daughter and completely dedicated to my daughter, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like, will this be seen? Maybe.
Yeah.
Dude, look at all these books, man.
As you're doing this, I'm realizing like, oh, I left some stuff out.
It kind of has a Walking Dead feel to it, like the cover design.
That Cinema Muerte one, for sure. So that book is about a group of young filmmakers who find a Necronomicon and they use it as a prop in their movie, and then it like unleashes hell. So It's a love letter to Kevin Smith and Sam Raimi. So the whole book is like, I call it Evil Dead meets Clerks, but it was a screenplay I wrote in college that my wife, me, and my best friend were supposed to like make together. He moved to California. We have a kid. I'm too tired. So I was like, I'm just making it a book. And I started to, and that one was great because I got to give it to Sam Raimi at a convention.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was like, hey man, don't be mad. Like, I wrote this book, you're in it. Like, he's physically in one of the books.
Wow.
I was like, but we make references to you, to Evil Dead, Drag Me to Hell. I was like, you're so influential to so many people. I wanted to get it on paper so that way, like, if something ever happens with this book, it's not just like, oh, he ripped him off. I'm like, it's like yours. It's dedicated to you. And he was laughing. He was super sweet about it. I showed him where we kind of made fun of him on one page, and he loved it. He was like, that is so cool. So
well, that's a pretty good thumbs up there.
Yeah, and then I got to give it to the guys from Clerks, not Kevin Smith, but like Jason Mewes, the guys that played Dante and Randall. And the guy that played Randall really loved it. He was like flipping through it, laughing. He's like had me sign it for him and stuff. So that was like a big moment for me because I loved that movie, Clerks. Like the first one is just so like influential to me that I was like, all right, this is awesome.
I think Jason's gonna be at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, Kevin Smith's gonna be there too, but the lines are gonna be nuts. And I hate leaving my table at shows. Like every time I do, I'm like, oh, that's a sale I could have missed out on. Even though like my wife's there to like manage it, there's like a guilt. Like, oh, I should be selling. I paid for us to get here. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that you should sell, but at the same time, take a moment, enjoy the.
Yeah,
It's New York Comic.
right. I was like, I gotta film some because I know a few people that are gonna be there, so I wanted to film some like sketches with people.
Nice.
And I went to school for film, so like anytime I get to hold a camera, I'm like down to do it. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll film some bits or like run around and do something. And then I'm like, what am I gonna edit it? I can
Well,
talk myself out of stuff pretty fast.
I feel you because
Yeah.
you know, we do a lot of running around and filming and every once in a while, like, let's do a sketch. We haven't done a sketch in a while. And then I'm like, dude, the little video interviews we do are just bad enough.
Kids are so mean. Like I'm 34, so like I'm old enough now where like if I shoot a bit, I remember shooting bits and putting it online before, and it was just a lot of ha ha ha, and like one person would be like, "This is weird," but
Exactly.
overall it was positive.
Yeah.
Now if I post like a TikTok where it's just me talking, like, "Hey guys, I wrote this book," like 2 comments will just be like so mean that I'm thinking
Definitely.
about them for like 2 days. But I'm like, I know they're 14. Like it shouldn't affect me. So like now whenever I shoot a bit, I'm just like, oh, the teens are gonna come for me.
I tell you this. Anytime you get haters on something, that's the best thing ever because those people tend to write a bunch of stuff, and your video gets all this traction.
I made one video because I made a video where it's like, oh, like I write comics and sometimes like they're Latin main heroes. One guy was like, there's only one Latin hero the world cares about, and it's Zorro. So I made a video just kind of deep diving the origins of Zorro and how he's not Latin. I had to turn off the comments. Like,
I was gonna say you just asked for it there.
Yeah.
it got so racist so fast. And then like my DMs were hot for a minute. So like then I opened it back up just so I can make videos responding to stuff. Cause I was like, oh, they think I don't know what I'm talking about. I was like, all right, well here's like the receipts. I was like, cause I grew up on Zorro. I loved Zorro. And then like I did some diving because I was like, oh, if I'm writing these kind of comics, who owns the right to Zorro comics? And that led me down the weirdest rabbit hole. And then like I made that video because somebody was like, well, why can't you write Zorro? And I was like, well, here's why. And I posted it. And I was like, oh, that guy.
So somebody does have the rights to Zorro because I'm like surprised he's not in where anybody could write him right now.
So he is public domain.
Oh, so he is. Okay.
He can't have the whip. He can't write the Z. And there's like 2 other things that you can't do with him.
Interesting.
So, right. So he was created by a guy in Wisconsin originally. And it was like shortly after like the Mexican-American War. So that's why the villains in Zorro comics are Spanish people, like Spanish.
Right.
And like the newly formed Mexican government, because they're like, the war's too fresh. We need him to fight people like him. And I was like, well, what if I modernized it? And then it just got weird and stuff from there. So I like posted all like here's the history of Zorro and all the non-Mexicans that have played him, even though he's supposed to be like a Mexican hero. And I was like, and I love Antonio Banderas. He gets a pass for whatever. Like I love him.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was like, I love those movies because they're created by the guys that did Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly.
And I rewatched them, and I was like, this is just Pirates of the Caribbean, but with like Spanish accents. Like this is great. And then I'm like, oh wait, that's Anthony Hopkins doing a Spanish accent. And Catherine Zeta-Jones, I always thought was Mexican or something, and she's not. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, I get it. It just led down a weird thing. But I asked a guy in the video that I was like, well, like you said, it's Mexican, but like, who in this top 4 billing is Latin? And then he was just like, I still like it. I was like, dude, me too. I just watched it, and I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
And there's a Zorro sitting on my desk right now. Like,
yeah.
I just want to.
It's so funny because they think just because you're trying to explain something, that you hate it. No.
No, I was like, I love it. I just want to make it different, and that led to like a whole thing. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna write like El Chapulín, who's like this Mexican hero guy.
I was about to say, man, you should be watching. You should be writing Chapulín.
I looked into his rights too. It's owned by a toy company, so I'm never gonna get him.
Oh wow! I didn't know it was owned by a toy company.
Yeah, all my heroes, like everything I find that I'm like, I'm gonna see how I can do this. I'm like, oh, it's owned by like Mattel. It's like,
Wait, so how did Marvel get away with creating that new version of Chapolin?
because it's a so the name is Chapolin's like this red suited like
Yeah,
hero with a hammer who's like he's our version of Superman basically. Like he fights for like just to make things better.
right.
And I kind of Marvel did it where they kind of brought in a new character who's like the red
Yeah,
locust,
the Red Locust. Yeah.
but her costume is based on that costume, so it's an homage. So I could totally do that, like the red grasshopper, and it's my version of Chapolin and stuff. But
Interesting.
I don't want to. I don't want to do a parody of it. I want to do
Exactly.
that.
The,
Yeah.
the beautiful thing is that now when you go to conventions, you're beginning to see Chapolin cosplay.
Yeah. I
I
had a
love it.
T-shirt of him, and some guy stopped me, and he's like, "I like your shirt," and I was like, "Yes, recognition." Because for a while they would just see it, and I can tell like they're trying to figure it out, but they're like, "We're still walking." I was like, "Oh man."
Dude, man, I just love seeing the cosplay. For a while there, I was getting ready my own Chapolin cosplay because I'm like, somebody has to play this guy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, folks, we're geeking out on some old Chespirito stuff there. So. and he was a brilliant comedian. Oh my god.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
All
used
his
to have
shows.
the Funkos
Mhm.
on my desk of him, and then my son snapped one of the antennas off, so I was like, he's going into storage till I can put him somewhere higher up. Like right now on my desk is just stuff that I don't mind if it goes missing,
Mm.
because he's gonna take it. Like
Oh,
I had
definitely.
have a Batmobile like right here, and I'm like, it's his now. Like I just every once in a while I'll step on it, and I'm like, oh, kids.
I gotta say, I'm changing a little course here because I'm seeing
Mhm.
the familiar dungeons, and I read the because you sent me the bits for the first one, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
this is great. I loved it. It felt D&D to me, and there's times where you read the stuff that was supposed to be D&D, and it doesn't feel.
yeah. If it flows really well where everyone's on the same page, it's not written by someone that plays Dungeons and Dragons. Like it's got to be chaotic, it's got to be messy, and there's got to be one wild card at every table.
And I think that's what I'm
So
enjoying because as you're reading, and they're kind of stuck where they are, and they understand and they know that they're stuck, and
yeah,
all that really, I was like, oh, I like this because it feels like a group of people who ended up being at a game, and all of a sudden they're stuck in this reality, and they're still being themselves, and you're like, okay, I can see it, that friend of yours who's an asshole is gonna still be an asshole.
the fun thing about that one is I wrote it about me. So I have 7 siblings. Like a lot of parts of my life are stereotyped, and I hate it,
Uh-huh.
but I can't run from it. So like that's one of them. I have a lot of siblings. So when I wrote it, I was like, what if I got my non-nerdy siblings to play D&D? What would that be like? And what if they couldn't just walk away? Like what if we had to play the game to do it right? And that's what that book started off as. And it's just I got to write to all the tropes of them. So like the little girl Vanessa, that's my sister Vanessa, and she is the wild card of the bunch. The older sister is based off my sister, like Evelyn. Like everyone is their role, and it's great because like the main character in the thing, Emmanuel, that's my middle name. So I was like, it's gonna be me trying to guide them because I'm the oldest brother, but I'm also like the shortest of them. So like my younger brother is like a semi-professional like soccer player, and
Whoa.
I'm nowhere near that like, at all. I'm the nerdy one, so I was like, oh okay, so it skipped to him because my dad is too, and I'm just like, all right, like that's something I got to deal with. But it all comes out in the book, and it's the only one that I've never given to them to read.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I was like, once the trade's out and it's too late for me to change things, that's when I'll give it to them to read.
So it's
I
a little
gotta
bit
say,
like Jumanji, a little bit, like because they're
Yeah,
stuck in it.
yeah. So like Jumanji, Space Jam, all those movies were like things that I loved. Where it was like, oh, we have to like play the game. Or Tron, like we have to play the game to go home. And in the beginning of the book, it's the older brother who's just like, we're not gonna play the game. We're gonna let someone else beat it so we can get out of here. We're gonna play this super safe. They only ever do like the first mission in any handbook, which is like the safest mission. And they do that time and time again till the little sister messes it up and forces the game to happen. And now they have to play their way through.
Yeah, I saw that. I was
Yeah.
like, oh.
So it's a lot of fun to write. Like I absolutely love it. Right now we're doing a short that has nothing to do with like the main cast, and it's a group of like a cheer squad that gets stuck in the game, but the head cheerleader is like a super aggro play to win kind of person.
Uh-oh.
So her team is now made up of people who know how to play the game, so that way she can make sure that she gets out first, because
Wow.
now it's a competition. So like my wife likes a lot of like girlier fun movies from like the 90s, so like I bring it on to that book. And just it's the most fun that I've had. Just like I got to write it, it was super carefree, and it's probably one of the more brutal ones too, because like there's a lot of decapitations and stuff happening in it, and I'm like, this is great, like this is just fun.
Well, it's fantasy. You figure.
Yeah. Well, some of these like get kind of dark.
Mhm.
Like there's a book that you'll scroll through and see. It's called Americana, and that one is about grief, because I had to write all my funeral home stuff into a book.
Right.
And that book, when I write it, I'm in like a terrible headspace for like 2 days. It's just like a hangover of emotion that I'm trying to work through. And then I get to come back and just write like, oh, they're gonna do like the thing where they throw the cheerleader up and she's gonna like take down a dragonborn. So I was like, I gotta write the funny stuff.
I love that.
Yeah.
I gotta say, you're the classic definition of a writer, where we use the books for therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. That Americana one, that's the one. And I even said it in like the small town that I live in called
Mhm.
Lamont. And then I just took pictures and sent it to the artist, like, hey man, this is it, and this is what I want to do with it. And it's real Hansel and Gretel-y. It's like a Stephen King book, is what I tell people. It's a coming of age story that has a lot of terrible things happening.
I gotta say, this is the other book that's caught my attention, the Lockjaw and Pistolero.
My mom was a mariachi singer when I was growing up, so I
Okay.
spent a lot of time going to bars where they had like this kind of visual stuff, where it's like the Aztec dude holding the dead woman, or the Dia de los Muertos skulls everywhere.
Right.
So I wanted to tell the story where the hero was like a mariachi singer, like those Robert Rodriguez movies,
Right.
but I wanted it to have like a supernatural element to it. So that one is cool because it's kind of like The Crow. Like he dies, comes back, and he's supposed to do this mission. Instead, he kind of just wanders and helps people, like the show Supernatural, where it's like a monster of the week. So it's him versus this witch. He's a mariachi, so he plays the guitar, and his name is Lockjaw because his jaw snaps in the first few pages.
Ooh.
So it resets, but it's always kind of crooked. So now he loses his ability to sing. And like, what's the point of music in life if you can't do the thing you love? And there's a whole lot of meat in that book
Wow.
where when I write it, it's like I'm writing it and I'm like, oh, is this for like an audience, or are you writing for you? And then I have to delete a bunch and then go back and tweak it. But that was my first book, was Lockjaw and Pistoletto. Now I have 10 different issues of that book out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you've been at this for a while, and I can see you have a lot of books. Have you been printing them out yourself?
Yeah, so I just sold the Lucha Forever book to a company called Comicer, who's going to be at the show as well.
Nice.
So they own the rights to that one. And then I sold, there's a book there called Starve Rock, and I realized it doesn't have the logo, but it has like the Wendigo on the cover, to a company called Blood Moon Comics. And they do a lot of horror titles, so they just bought that one from me. But that one was really cool because there's a writer named Colin Bunn who does a lot of horror books. He did Power Rangers versus Godzilla. He's written X-Men. But I've gotten to talk to him, like just through online being a fan, and he actually wrote a quote for me for the front of the book.
Nice.
So that was like a milestone for me, because I was like, oh, one day I'm going to be a writer and I can have like a Stephen King blurb or something. And I was like, oh, I'm not that kind of a writer. I was like, I don't know if people actually like it. And then they start to panic. And then somebody you like will read it and they'll be willing to do it. And that was like a big help.
I gotta say, bro, you're really working in. I like what you're doing. you haven't, have you done any Kickstarters?
One. So we did it for Lucha Forever. I don't like Kickstarter as much because like I don't like going online and be like, hey guys, like donate to my Kickstarter. Let's make this book. Because I'm gonna make it either way. And I don't want to lie to people and be like, this book's not gonna happen without you because I'm gonna do it. And I've noticed a trend recently on Kickstarter where it's like they'll put a $200 like is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how much it costs to make a comic. I'm like, oh, you're just kind of like locking it in early so that way you don't have to worry about it later on. I was like, it's smart, but I don't want to lie to people. I don't want them to think like, oh, this book cost me $200 to make. It possibly cost me like $3,000
Oh yeah.
per issue.
We're constantly telling people, you know, and we'll have people on and talk about their Kickstarters, and they're just trying to, because it's kind of heartbreaking if your goal is $3,000 and you get to $2,990.
Yeah. You know, that's when you just create like an email address for grandma. And grandma donates the last $10 so you can lock it in. Like, but there's a lot of, it's really hard to get a Kickstarter kind of going.
Oh, definitely, completely.
And we do have, so there's a wrestler in Chicago named Shelly Benson.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, her whole thing is like, she's like the blonde bombshell wrestler. I like wrestling a lot. And she wanted to like do a book. So I co-wrote it with her. We finished all the art. We finished all the stuff. But I think Kickstarter for that one will be a good way to promote her as a writer.
Yeah.
And our kind of collaboration. So we're not going to do.
She has an audience already.
She does.
Yeah.
So we're going to set the goal at like 1,500 because 1,500 will pay back what I put in because I paid for the whole book to get made.
Right.
To make the book. And then everything that we make after that, we're going to tell people, if you like it, everything after this is going to go to make issue 2.
Right.
Because we agreed to make one book together. This will help make the next one.
We say that all the time here too, because everybody, I tell the people all the time, nobody is making money off of Kickstarter. Most of these guys are just trying to make more books. They're trying to continue the dream. And I find that what you're doing is one of the best places to be in Kickstarter, because people want a book that's already done. They want to put their money in a book where, oh, it's already done. He's just trying to get more money so that he can do certain things with it, you know. And that's always a good selling point. It's like, folks, this book is done. I just need this money so we can do this. You know?
Yeah.
This book is gonna happen whether you do it or not.
What I don't like is when the big companies use Kickstarter. I think it puts the little guy at the disadvantage.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot too recently, where it was like Boom Studios was doing like, oh, we're getting James Tynan's book all printed together, and I was like, first of all, he's like the king of comics right now, so like he doesn't need help making his thing happen. I was like, too, you're Boom, you own the rights to like Power Rangers and stuff.
Exactly.
Like, who do you need money from? And I know a lot of it, like some of them will say like, oh, it's a good way for us to just get pre-orders. I'm like, no, just print it. Like, people are gonna buy it.
Well, then they can put the pre-orders on their website.
Exactly.
Right. Just do it the normal way. And I think it's
a pre-order style Kickstarter where you go, let's do this, and just run it the same way as a Kickstarter, but it's pre-order.
Yeah. I remember, like, because I used to do film stuff like way back when Garden State was coming out.
Yeah.
And that was like a crowd-funded thing that he was doing. And he was like, oh, we raised all the money through this like charity or through this like online donation thing. And everyone was talking about it. I was like, you've done 13 seasons of Scrubs and you raised $2 million. Like you have that. Like, I saw that Punk'd episode with your Lamborghini. Like, you were really upset, man, or Porsche. I was like, I remember that episode. Like, you had the money, Zach Braff. You didn't need my $40.
Exactly.
But then I saw Garden State and I loved it, and I was like, okay. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense, And what ends up happening is that all the little guys end up getting hurt because now the big guys are taking the money away from those little guys who would have gotten that money.
Yeah, there's just only so many things you can spend your money on. So it's like, well, do I get maybe something from Marvel, or do I get something from you, John, or
Yeah.
obviously they're going to promote, the Kickstarter is going to promote these big businesses. So.
Yeah.
The same thing. He goes, if something is successful for small creators, someone with means is going to come in and abuse it. Unfortunately, he's right. Because that's what usually happens. As soon as the big companies see that the little guy is making money, they're like, we can make that same money.
Yeah.
We can take it away from them.
I personally get copyrights on my stuff as soon as I finish it, just because I'm paranoid. If somebody with money and means gets a hold of my stuff, well, what if they take the idea? I mean, they could probably still find a loophole and do it anyway, but a copyright lets you sleep a little bit at night.
Yeah, I had to do that for all these.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive.
That's a whole other process, and a lot of people who make or are trying to make comics don't understand that there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in order for these comics to be made. These copyrights aren't cheap.
No, nothing with self-publishing is cheap.
Nope.
Like, I am working on like a novel thing right now, and like looking into, because I'm gonna submit it places, but I always go into it like I'm gonna submit it, but I'm probably gonna do it myself either way. Like, that's just how I do things. And then I was like, okay, well, if I do that, how much does it cost to print? So I know about how many pages I can afford to write, so that way I can print and still make money off the book and not have to charge people like $25 for my book or whatever.
Right.
And it's so expensive to like print a book, like more than a comic. It is insane. So now I'm doing it, and it's like I have to finish it anyway because I already started it, but it gets really pricey to do all this stuff.
Well, you have to get a cover design done for a regular book, an editor. Yeah. You have to format it for the publisher unless you want them to do it, in which then they charge you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've been doing this since like 2012, like, self-publishing. So like I'll spend hours there formatting the book just to save some money. I refuse to give them that. And then you have to, publish it, print it. And when you print them, it could take anywhere from, 2 weeks to get the book, or, 2 months. It just really depends on how quickly they decide to go. So.
And that is best time for Kristina to go, who are you? What do you do? Give them the spiel. Go for it.
So I am a sci-fi fantasy author, and I've been self-publishing since 2012, but I've had books out before that. I've actually written 29 books total. I'm working on my 30th one right now. I've kind of been putting that on pause for the past couple of weeks, though, to get ready for New York Comic-Con. The one I'm working on is called Lights, Camera, Axum. People kind of think it has like a porn sounding feel, but...
I don't know, man. What kind of porn are people watching?
I know. But people, that's what I've been getting from people. But I like that title, so I'm sticking with it. It actually takes place in an amusement park, and they're filming a reality TV show. It's kind of like one of those Love Bachelorette type things, and people keep dying there. And she's trying to get out of there, but she kind of likes this guy there, and just the bodies are hitting the ground, and you see like history flashbacks of like why society is the way it is. It's kind of very dark horror fantasy, and I think it's a lot of fun. First time I'm kind of going in that direction. I have this guy named Charles doing the cover for that one, so I'm really excited. I've been bugging him probably for about a year now to do it, and he's finally gonna do it after New York Comic-Con, and I think it's gonna be amazing. So that's kind of like what I'm working on. As I mentioned, I'll be at New York Comic-Con. I'll be in WB 18, which is Writer's Block 18.
Mm-hmm.
I have different people there every day helping me. So if you stop by my booth, it won't just be me. It'll be some cool, fun, eccentric person with me.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be there, but who else is going to be there?
I know. I was trying to talk my 2 female friends into wearing bikinis and standing by my booth. They said no, but they will be there with me. I was just trying to do whatever I can to sell some books, meet people. It's a networking event, and it's not, obviously you want to make money, but it's not just about that. I want people to read my stories.
Yeah.
I love writing. It's been my passion since I was 10 years old. You know, I had my first book published before I was in high school. So, it's just something I really love to
That is
do.
amazing by itself.
Yeah.
That is amazing by itself. Yeah. Because, you know, most people, you know, like me, you know, I don't like the whole publishing aspect of things. So I just keep writing. And I always make the joke that once I'm dead, then my family can go and do whatever.
Yeah. Oh, there is one thing I do want to mention. So when you guys were talking about D&D,
Mhm.
so back in the day, like, God, I was like 12 at the time. Like, you know, the internet was dial up back then,
Yeah.
and I didn't know about monsters and stuff. So I would steal my uncle's D&D manual and look for monsters.
Oh,
And that's how I would
yeah.
get ideas for villains in my books. I'm like, okay, I'll use, you know, the Chimera or whatever it is. And I think, you know, even though I didn't really get to play it, it really helped me, you know, kind of develop my creativity. And, you know, I kind of owe a lot to that game.
Same here. I owe a lot to
Yeah.
the game. My writing style comes from a lot of working on D&D, from first being a player and then being a DM and then creating my own worlds for it. You know, and it's so funny because it helped me be able to explain writing to at least a certain aspect of my crowd, because, you know, that thing I just said is how writing is. You start, if you're working with characters, and then you play in a sandbox and you work with a world, and then finally you're on your own and you create this world because you understand now, because you've been working with the other sandboxes, how these worlds are supposed to work, and you know, you start to figure out how to make things happen.
Yeah. And I think you obviously also get inspiration from other things as well.
Oh, definitely.
For me, I had children's Shakespeare books, so I became a playwright. So technically my books are actually plays, but I don't really usually tell people that. They get surprised by that.
Interesting. Okay.
It's their diary play. But my other inspiration is comic books. You know, Stan Lee was a huge influence on me. So D&D, comics, Shakespeare merged into one to create my own unique style.
Nice.
That is really nice. You know, if I would put mines together, it would be D&D, Vampire the Masquerade, comic books, and detective novels.
I like that.
Yeah, and if you read my stuff, you can see all of that. Especially because I always have that detective noir narrative happening in my head, and it tends to seep into my writing.
It does. I kind of like to, me personally, like when it comes to your stuff, I like to think up crazy scenarios and just message you at like random hours.
Oh, yeah.
You should do this. You should do that. Just because I want to see what crazy thing you come up with, because you'll take it in a complete different direction that I could ever come up with.
Love that. It's one of my favorite things is when I get challenged. You know, when I had the writing show, when I was doing the writing show, when the show was more about writing instead of you know, pop culture, I would do those things. The board's down there because I'm changing the set right now. That board back there is the last one we were working on, which is a let's write a story together, where the audience threw a bunch of stuff at me, and I put all this stuff together, and the guys are still upset because the corgi character became some kind of hero, and they wanted him dead.
Why? Well, I think you need to resurrect the corgi and do a Krampus corgi story for Christmas.
I did a Krampus story.
I know, but like you have to put the corgi and Krampus together for this year.
Maybe Krampus brings the corgi back.
Yes, there we go. There we go.
Oh man, yeah, because one of the things I love is most people think Christmas is all about all these beautiful little stories, but they forget that Christmas has ghost stories. You know, there's so many ghost stories attached to Christmas. You know, and I think people forget that.
There was actually a book recently published on like the dark side of Christmas. It has, I have to find that book and send it to you, but there's a lot of, you know, spooky stuff you can do year round.
Oh, definitely. You know, and that's why every year we do the you know, write the Christmas spooky story. It's always a lot of fun to see what happens. And you know, a couple of years back, we actually had Leslie, Cadma, and myself wrote 3 different stories, and we put it out there.
Nice.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I got to bring that back. Yeah, Cadma's story was really dark. But Cadma's really dark.
Do you guys ever get nervous, like, you know, when you're looking up stuff, like, you know, something really dark that you're writing? And you're like, well, how do I decapitate somebody? Or how do I, like, you know, you're looking this stuff up on the computer and you're like, am I going to get a knock on the door today? I've mentioned that, I think, before, but it's, you have gotten a knock?
No, I do that for work. I work at a lab where you donate bodies to science. So I've done dissection and all that stuff. So like it'll be like a writer will ask me like, well, like what if they cut off the hand? And I was like, well, depending on where, I could tell you what happens. But like I'll look up stuff for like other things, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna get me flagged for sure. Yeah,
I'm always worried about that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've talked to a few agents.
I am always worried about that. I'm just waiting for somebody to go, Ralph, we're gonna take your computer because you've been flagged in a couple of.
You gotta like have flash drives in different locations, like all over the place, hidden.
I'm a writer, so naturally all that stuff is all over the house. It was at first my notebooks, which are still all over the house, and now there's a bunch of flash drives with story bits and pieces all over the house.
I'll always start with like a notebook, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write it out on here first, then eventually make it into something. And then I get like 2 pages into my notebook, and then I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go write it, and I'll figure it out as I go. Like I can't plot things out the way I used to anymore, because now I'm just like, I know what this is, and then I'll just start going. And I think that's why I write so fast now. It's because just like, I already know where it's gonna go. I just have to tell myself to get there already. So.
I just put stuff in my phone nowadays. Like I'll write basically an outline for my whole book in my phone. I used to fill up notebooks. I actually had about 40 notebooks in a tote this year, and I set them on fire. So, so all the stuff that I wrote years and years ago, gone.
I can't do that. There's a lot of stuff that I need to get back to.
Some things you don't want people to see. You're like, oh, I wasn't that good back then.
For me, it's just my like Facebook posts will come back, and it's like song lyrics, because like I got Facebook right around the time me and my wife met, which was like very 18 years old of us. So it's like Mayday Parade lyrics, and then it'll come back up because of time hop or whatever. I'm like, delete. No one needs to know about my emo phase that I'm still live in. I know, I can't stop it. Like as I said, Mayday Parade, I was like, oh, I was listening to them like 10 minutes ago. I was like, yeah, it's still there. It's still in me.
I've burned a lot of my old work as well.
Good call. Well, no, I'm not saying that your stuff's bad. I'm just saying sometimes you don't want people to see stuff, and that's the best way to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where there's just too much stuff. And like I said, once I'm dead, they can do whatever they want.
Well, there's that director Ed Wood or whatever. He did like Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah. And his wife found a ton of just old reels of stuff that he started. Mm-hmm. And they asked her like, oh, will you release it? And she's like, no, this is just for me. So like, I told my wife, no, just put it out there. Like, let people, if I don't finish it, the worst thing is like no ending to like something I've started. So just tell them how it ends, because she's like my journal. Like I'll just go up to her and just be like, all right, I thought of this idea, and then I'll pitch it, and then she'll be like yes or no on it, because I can usually gauge if it holds her attention. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, other people besides me will like it. Exactly. And if it doesn't, I was like, it's too specific to me. I was like, all right.
I don't know, anytime I write, everybody's like, oh, so are you writing for an audience? And I go, no.
Most of these are just for me. Yeah, most of this is just like stuff I want.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've had people read my work and they didn't like it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, because I know who I wrote it for. And if you didn't like it, then it makes sense to me because I didn't write it for you.
it's awful, but I'll be like, hey, you can read my book, but don't tell me about it. I don't care what you. I mean, I do care. It would upset me if somebody said your book sucks, and I've had people criticize me, but to be honest, I don't want to be in that headspace.
No.
So you can read my book. You can, if you tell me that you like it, all right, awesome. That makes my day. But if you don't like it, I don't want to hear about it. I just want to go about my business. This is my art. This is my book. I'm putting it out there for you to read it. I hope you enjoy it. But after that, I have no control. So, and you don't want to, because if you start writing for other people, the book loses its soul, its passion, its story.
Completely.
It becomes by the numbers.
I completely believe in that. And it's funny because I've had people go, well, if you change this and this and this, like if it's something that I sit there and go, oh, I can see what you're talking about as writing. If you're telling me something and the structure of the writing or something like that, that's different. I'll sit there and go, okay, I understand what you're trying to tell me. And then sometimes if I think I was wrong in what I was doing, then I might change it. But if even if you're telling me this is the structure, I'm like, well, when I was writing it, I wasn't trying to go in that structure. I was trying to do something else. So, and then you'd explain it to them and they still look at you like you're crazy. And I'm like,
I mean, yeah, like you obviously want people to tell you if you have a spelling mistake or grammar.
Right.
You want to fix that stuff. But like stories are up to people's interpretation. You can.
Definitely.
So like, I don't know. It's same thing with writers group, because a lot of new writers will go into writers groups and then people will rip them apart and then they never finish their book
at all.
Right.
And I feel bad for them, or if they do, it's not their book, it's the group's book.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to follow your heart.
And John, you're really doing that. I like what you're doing, and I know Kristina's doing that because I've known her long enough now.
How many years have we known each other?
Shoot, I think you are around as long as Bitten Apple's been around. So that's at least 9 years.
Yeah, I think it's been yeah,
it's either 9 or 8 years, because I think we met you at Garden State Comic Fest in Atlantic City.
Yes, it was Atlantic City.
Right, so that's at least 8 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, and we're getting older, but it's still fun.
I always tell people age is just you figuring things out, especially as a writer. And the older you get as a writer, the more you're like, oh, I think I figured this writing out now.
I just find them a lot more tired than I used to be.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a given. That's a complete given.
Yeah. Well, I have a medical condition, and tiredness is one of the symptoms of it. And every year, it's more and more difficult for me to even do regular things. So, like, people don't understand. Like, I don't want to say I have a disability, because it's not a disability; it's a challenge, and you just have to find different ways to overcome it. And sometimes it might just take me longer to do stuff, but I will eventually get it done.
Yeah.
And, you just kind of have to smile and keep going.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Tate saying age is mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter.
I mean, that's true too.
So, John, how much do your books cost?
$5. On I got a convention, like if you're meeting me at like New York Comic Con, we sell them for $5 because like I don't have to charge for shipping. There's no like overhead fees through like Wix or TikTok or anything like that. Yeah,
that's a great deal.
$5. Yeah, for the books.
How big are they?
I think the average size is like 24 pages.
Oh, that's not bad.
So classic comic book, okay.
Yeah.
This classic comic book is about 24 to 26 pages.
Yeah, Lucha Forever is our biggest book, and that one is 36 pages. And I think the smallest one we have is Loteria, and that one is 20 pages.
Because I'm definitely picking up our D&D book there.
Issues 1 and 2 are out, and we actually have dice axe. So like it looks like a plastic axe, and you pull the handle out, and it holds all your dice. And then we have a sword version of it too. So I have a company that I work with. They're called Wham Stand, and they do like
Yeah, we had him on the
3D
show
printing.
recently.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
I love Matt. Like those guys are incredible.
He's amazing.
Like,
I got
so
him
cool.
working on something for me right now.
He just sent me like the little microphone holder thing, so I'm taking it with me to the show. I love him. Like every time I have my dad runs a tortilleria, like a tortilla factory.
Yeah.
So I had him make like a big disc because the show The Bear, you know that show on
Yeah.
our restaurant's featured in there.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so I had to make like a commemorative thing for it, and I just sent him like, hey man, like, do you think you could do this? In like a week, it's like showing up here. I'm like, I love you. Like you're
amazing.
the coolest person of all time. Yeah.
And his prices are really like
Yeah.
affordable. Because I was talking to him about what I wanted him to do, and he was like, "Oh yeah." Then he told me the price, and I'm like, "You kidding me, right?"
I'm always scared, like, hey, because I'll pay for it, but I'm like, hey, like, what if we made swords? And he was like, yeah, we could do that. And I was like, well, how much would it cost? And then he'll tell me. I was like, I need 20. Like, because I'll tell him, like, I'm selling them online, and now I have like sticker sets of his, so that way whenever someone buys it, I can give him his info and be like, challenge him to make something, because this dude, he's making pins, and I'm like, stop.
dude. When I see you, we're already gonna do a video for you, but when I see you, we'll do a video for him too.
Yeah, he made this comic spinner.
Yeah, I love that comic spinner. Oh,
I'm bringing it to the show.
Oh, dude, yeah, we're definitely making a video for him.
Yeah, because I like literally, I'll see something crazy, and I'm like the first person in his comment, like, "Oh, I'm gonna need that."
Exactly.
And then whenever I place an order, he's like, "Did you actually want it?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Great, it's in there." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, hell yeah!" Well, yeah. If you look behind me, like 4 things you could see are his, like that light over here, behind me on this side, and then on that side is his, and then there's a Wham Stand like card holder. It's everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love his work, and that's why I had him on the show. I was like, dude, I gotta have you on the show, because I ran into his stuff because half my friends are using him. I'm like, dude, you're all over my feed.
Yeah. I made a video on TikTok the other day just saying, like, hey, if you're making comics and you need a display, like, just contact this guy, because it's just going to elevate your table because people can see it now.
Yeah.
In the corner, I did a show. It was Fan Expo in Chicago this last year, and I felt really bad because there was like one kid who just had like his one comic that he had just made, and I know how much the booth costs, and it was just like a plain black tablecloth, his comic, and like some stickers he printed out. So I got an extra Wham Stand thing, and I got one that said like new arrival, and I just gave it to him. I was like, I can replace mine. Like, you need this because like your next step is going to be learning to market yourself, and that's not something they teach you as like a writer or like ever, is how to that's where you have to.
Yeah, they really don't teach you that at all.
No.
One of the things when I started doing, because I first started teaching people how to writing, because so long story short, I went through my whole thing. I got all these beautiful books back here that taught me how to write, and then I finished the whole process of reading all this stuff, and I sat there and going, there's a step that's missing that they don't really tell you about. There's a step you have to go over this step in order to become a writer, but nobody tells you about that step, and it's this journey to becoming the writer that makes you the writer, but nobody really talks about it. So I said, you know what? Let's take this journey together. Me and you and I will do this journey and become better writers. And that's the whole reason the Written Writ started, was because I wanted to bring everybody along to and tell them, you guys can write too. Come on.
I have a Patreon where I do that, where I show people how to like do stuff, but I also put my rejection letters up there.
Yeah.
Just so they get a very realistic sense of like what you get from it.
Dude, you're talking about it, so I have to show it off. He does amazing stuff. There you go. Yeah, these things. This is all him doing it.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they're magnetic.
Yeah.
And then they can change the logo on it. And that was one of the things I was asking him. I was like, I want to do my logo. He goes, oh no, it wouldn't cost that much. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Well, I have book racks, but that would be good for like just my newest book that comes
to
out.
show it off. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah, he has one that says like new arrivals too, like
Yeah.
already pre-made things. So like you can take it on there. If you wanted to do like your title, he can make it. Because I definitely want to grab that Axe one, like as soon as it comes out, because I love that premise.
Look at that beautiful mic. That's exactly what I'm sitting here with him going, I need a mic, and you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of people don't really know how to set up their tables at events. Like the new people don't. You're paying a lot of money to be there. You have to be visually appealing to people to draw them over. Like sometimes people will use food. You can't do that though at New York Comic Con. No food or anything like that.
Yeah.
You have to have your books up. Doesn't matter if it's a comic or a regular book. You need a eye-catching tablecloth. You need a runner of some kind. Lights, visuals, anything that gets people over there.
Yeah.
I think it's funny as you're saying that.
Sorry, did you say lights? Did I hear RGB lights? Lights? Did I hear RGB lights? What? No? Huh?
Nat just popped in on that one, huh?
I was wondering if there was anybody really there, or if it was just like he logged in and walked away.
I'm always here. I'm always watching. Always listening.
Cue the music from was it Sting?
Psycho?
Every breath you take.
Big Brother.
Big Brother, that too.
Big Brother's always watching.
It is.
Yeah, he does great jobs. And like you're saying, sometimes you need something that makes your table stand out.
Yeah.
And this is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be our first setup like this that we're gonna have for the show with like the spinner and stuff because I just got it all in. So space is gonna be. Hey, you can see Cinema Muerte there too. That's awesome. But yeah, you could. There's a lot of stuff like that like I didn't think about when I first started. I bought so many cutouts of my characters that I never take to shows because they eat up space. Like at a library show, it's fine because like it's a library. I can put them up somewhere. Kids will take pictures. It doesn't matter. But like at a convention, that space is like sacred. Like I need room because it's me, my wife, my kid, and like his stroller is gonna be back there in case he knocks out. All my overstock's gonna be like tucked away, so it gets tricky.
Thank you for reminding me. I didn't realize forgot to pack my banner in my car. And you said cutouts. I'm like, oh no, banner. I just put it in my phone, so I remember to get it.
And it's funny though because you got one of the bigger tables, right?
I think so. I think it's 6 feet. Yeah,
6
but like
feet too.
I have so many books that I'm bringing that it's not going to be a lot of room. I don't even know if I can fit all of it into my space. I guess we'll see tomorrow.
I'll tell you both the same thing. As soon as you put everything together and you put it out, make sure you put a video because it helps in getting the word out there. Oh, look, we're at New York Comic Con. It sounds stupid, but if you look on Instagram right now, you'll find a lot of those videos going up where everybody who's at the convention goes, look, I put up my table.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're like a boomer trapped inside a millennial's body.
Every time you see me make a video, know that I died a little more inside.
Yeah.
And I make a lot of videos, and it's just like, hey guys, what's up? And then as soon as this turns off, I'm just like,
dude, here's the big thing. You know, I do this and I do a lot of videos and I do it. They came to a point now. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but there's more trailers happening. Because before I would come on and do a whole promo where I'll be like, tonight on the show, and that's just a lot of energy. Yeah. And I was like, once these little videos I started putting together with the music and who's going to be on, I was like, I don't have to talk.
I used to make fun of TikTok a lot because like it's TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I sell more on there per week than I do at like, yeah, it's insane. Like it's really good for sales. Like it just is, but you have to do the work of like making the videos, talking to people. And before I used to be like, hey guys, I'm John Avina of Avina Comics, and nobody cared. Now I'm just like, this book has a a mariachi singer blowing up like Krampus or whatever.
Did you say mariachi singer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I write mariachi monster hunting comics.
Yep.
Yeah, but like that's all you need. You just need to say mariachi and
Exactly.
Yeah, it works. But like I have to do it, and then like I'm old at heart, so like every time I do it, I'm just like they're not gonna care, and then I'll sell one, and I was like, oh, it worked. The weirdest book I have, there's a thing called a paletero, and it's like a Mexican guy that pushes an ice cream cart,
Right.
right?
oh,
So,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's
Wonder,
called
wonder.
it's called the last paletero on the block, and it's about a paletero that fights monsters that attack his neighborhood. So there's like a kaiju one, a robot, like a wizard that does like birthday parties gone wrong. And I wrote the first one, and I was so embarrassed to put it out. I was like, this is one of those things where nobody stopped me. And I wrote something that was so specifically for me, it hurts. It sells really well at shows because like a guy will walk past and be like, I know what a paletero is. And he'll look, he's like, why does it have a sword? And I'm like, oh, I was like, because he's got to fight something. He's not all business right now. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, cool, I'll read it. I'm like, oh, yes.
Dude, one of these days you got to take your table and make it into a paletero stand and sell them.
I've been trying. I can't build anything. Like I said, my brother's like the handyman, athlete, everything a guy should be. And then there's me who like, I have an Allen wrench set. And
You
like,
could probably buy one
like,
if I'm being honest.
I live not too far from like a very Mexican neighborhood, like because I moved from Chicago to like the suburbs. But like, there's a place by me called Joliet, and they have like paletero carts that you can rent.
Nice.
So I was tempted to bring it to like a show once,
Yeah.
and just see if I could do the rounds selling comics out of my paletero cart. Every venue has told me no, just flat out. And I was like, well, if I did it as a cosplay and only took cash, I was like, nobody would know. And then I'd have to make a video talking about it. And then they would be like, John, I saw your fucking video. I swore 3 times. I'm sorry. But they'd be like, I saw you.
I swore a long time ago.
You could do a tamales cart where it's just like a metal cart with like an ice cooler in it. And like when you lift it up, it's just your books wrapped up in like tamale wrapping.
I've gotten rejected from San Diego Comic-Con so many times that I think I'm just going to do that next year. Like, I'm just going to be out front.
Dude, exactly, because we see a lot of guys, like especially New York Comic Con. What happens now? You know, and I don't know if you guys are going to be outside, but when you're walking towards the con, there's tables out there.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that would have been so much cheaper.
So I can just see it now. You're walking down the street, comics.
Once my son's old enough, I'm gonna have him do that. Like, hey, go do the rounds. Because my dad was one of those kids that had to sell like gum and stuff as a kid in Mexico. Like, he had to work from like at the age of 5, like pushing a cart, doing all that. So now it's my son's turn. So as soon as he's old enough to learn how to make change, I'm taking his childhood and he's gonna start selling dance comics. Like,
I did it as a kid, so you do it too.
Yeah.
You could always get a giant trench coat and just put comics on the inside and just open it and be like, psh.
No. I consider that for myself, and I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be like, look at my wares. Because
think about that guy from Hercules. Yeah.
Look at my wares.
Just remember, nothing stops you from wearing a backpack saying, ask me about my comics.
Yeah.
And you just having them in there.
Dude,
nothing
now they got
stops you.
backpacks where you can actually have a window back there, and your comic is just sitting there, and you're walking there. So they can actually show off the comic at the same time that you're walking with this beautiful book bag.
They have like those LED panel ones, right, where you can have them say stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. You'd be like, ask me about my comic, and then you show the comic.
I have the word writer tattooed on my arm, and like when I wear a short sleeve shirt, people ask me about it. Oh, what type of books you write? I'm like, you fell into my trap, and then I proceed to tell them.
That's a good idea. That is.
Listen, all I'm gonna say, if a guy can walk around the con holding a bucket of grass for people to touch, so that way they can touch grass for the first time in their lives, nothing stops you.
We've seen that.
Really?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, we also witnessed some people's first time touching grass.
Yep.
At that same moment.
I assume they live in the city. They've never been to Central Park.
I don't get it.
New Yorkers don't go to Central Park, if we're being honest. That's a tourist place.
I have gone to Central Park, so that's very true. It was on my wife's like bucket list. We met working at a Barnes & Noble, so she's like, we have to go to their Barnes & Noble. We have to go see Central Park.
Yeah.
And then one of my friends is from New York, so she was just like, oh, all right, let's go.
Which Barnes & Nobles that you hit in New York?
Oh, this was like 4 years ago. So no, like 6 years ago. So I'm not sure. It was like the, which one was it? New York, what Barnes & Noble? Yeah, she doesn't remember either.
Is it the one is it the one at Union Square?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because that's the iconic one.
Yeah, it was that one. Yeah.
There was a better one before, but they got rid of it.
Not profitable.
Barnes & Noble will do that. We worked there for 10 years. Like, we met there, like, my first, like, 2 weeks, and then we started dating, like, right after that.
Oh.
So, like, our engagement photos were, like, at a Barnes & Noble. So I was like, all right, we're always meant to, like, be around books. And now every time, like, I buy a new book, like, I just don't read it. I'm like, yeah, finally. And then I start, I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah. My to be read is like this tall, and then I always go back to like the same book I've read like 7 times.
Yeah, I do that a lot too. There's books that I've read over and over and over. Yeah. And then there's books that are just sitting there and going, hey, Ralph, you said you were going to read me.
Yeah. Well, now I just got your like Axe book thing stuck in my head, and I really want to read it. So like as soon as that's available, tell me, because you like the premise of it and the title, like Lights Camera. I was like, that is so perfectly me. Like I love it.
You might also like my book that's out now called Death and Sunshine. Death takes a vacation, and nobody can die, and the gods are pissed. So they're trying to bring death back because they kind of like killing people and they, causing chaos. And you find out there's a reason why she stopped death. There's something coming.
Oh,
yeah.
So
Kristina has some good books.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to grab that one.
Yeah, that one's going to be there at the event. I'm debating if I should bring like more copies of that one because I think it's going to sell really well. I have 20 copies packed, but I'm like, should I get another 10? Like, can I fit it somewhere in my car?
Because you don't have to bring them all with you, but you can leave them somewhere where you can actually get them when you need them.
Yeah, I just because of how heavy books are compared to comics. I feel like I want to dump it all inside like tomorrow. But then the problem is on Sunday, if I don't sell the stuff, getting everything out. So I'm thinking, since I have most of my stuff's in suitcases, maybe Saturday night, if I don't sell stuff, start like my friends and I just take a couple suitcases to the car. Yeah.
You got to start early, depending on how well you sold. Because if you sold well, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you have like Instagram and all that stuff too?
I have Facebook and Twitter because again I'm old.
Because I was like, I usually do like cool like shout out videos from whenever I find something cool at a convention. I'll like try to make something.
Yeah.
I have to make content or I'll disappear. So like I have to fight the algorithm. So like.
I'll just go crazy if I don't do it.
Well, I know I should be on TikTok because book talk's a thing, but I can't bring myself to go onto that commie platform. So
my wife runs a book group thing on Facebook that has like 20,000 members. Like they're always going crazy and like fighting. Nice. But I can, when I pick up the book, I'm going to tell her like, I used to moderate it, but I got ousted. Because I was like the only guy in it, and a lot of it's like romance books. Like they all started reading Fourth Wing, and then I criticized it, and then they were like, "This might not be the group for you." And I was like,
That's
I think it'll be out here.
But I guess they can.
I was there for the Stephen King like questions that they would get. They'd be like, "I want something horror," and I was like, "Here it is." They're like, "And make it spicy," and I was like, "I can't."
So I can write spicy stuff, but I don't really put that in my books. Like there is obviously sex in them, but I'm like, people I know are reading this. I don't want them to see me like or read the stuff that I'm like. It makes me kind of feel dirty. So.
I wrote a book called Mile High Fright because everybody is like, do you have anything that's actually meant for, like, one TikTok comment set me off, and it was like, do you have anything for adults? And I was like, oh,
Whoa.
okay. So then I wrote a book called Mile High Fright, and it's basically From Dusk Till Dawn on an airplane.
Oh,
and I love it because like people will stop and like look through other comics, but I know they want to pick that one up, and I'm just like, just grab it, guys. We're all adults here. I was like, there's nudity in it, it's fine. And then like they'll pick it up and be like, yeah, I'll just buy this one. I was like, yeah, I'll just buy that one. I was like, take that, TikTok commenter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't made my money back in that book yet, but that $5.
So Kristina, I will tell you this: maybe you shouldn't go on TikTok, but you should go on Instagram, because there's a big writing and art community on Instagram.
Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah.
I just had a new sign made too.
You should do TikTok. Like it, you could avoid all the nonsense of it. Like it's just block it out. But if you set up a TikTok shop and you just have like one video that does well enough, your book's just gonna sell off that video time and time again. Like every once in a while, like a video I made like 6 months ago will like do the rounds again.
Yeah.
And then I'll sell like 20 books off of it. And I'm like, oh, like, okay, cool. And then every once in a while, then the comments get heated and I got to turn stuff off. But you deal with it as you go. It's like a day-by-day thing.
Yeah. Like
maybe I can get another phone, and that way just use it for the TikTok. And
there you go.
Yeah.
Because I used to do the TikTok, the same thing. I would do the promos for the show. I would do little writing segments, and then one day I was like, I don't feel like doing any of this.
You'll see breaks in my thing like a while ago where I would just not be on it for like 2 weeks. It was just like I was burnt out. I didn't want to like come back on and be like, hey, I'm writing stuff that I can't show you guys because it'll spoil it. But like I'm writing things. They didn't care. But then I would be like, oh, you know what I don't like about this movie? And then the comments would just be like, how could you not?
How dare you not like the movie that I like?
Oh, man.
I made a comment about Game of Thrones, like when it ended. I thought the ending was shit. And I posted it. And I said, well, this is, as a writer, this is how I would fix it. And I got this one guy, like, basically left me the nastiest message ever, basically to, like, kill myself. And I was like, unfriend. And, because I didn't even, like, share it I shared it to my friend group, not to.
Oh, that's even worse. It's even worse. Because that means this guy was a friend of yours. Ooh.
Yeah, like I hadn't seen him in years, but he's like a Facebook friend, and I just people can get mean.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I just don't understand that. Like, you can share your opinion, but you can do it in a way that's not douchebaggery.
You do. You don't have to kill people with your opinions. Words hurt.
When you sign up for TikTok, go to my pinned posts. There's one of a guy in cosplay that I stitched, and it's me just talking about making Latin themed comics. Every other comment is, how dare you make Latin themed comics? And then another comment saying these aren't Latin enough. So I'm like, do you guys see the paradox here? Like, it's too Latin, but not Latin enough.
Yeah.
Like,
do they think you're Italian?
I get Italian. I get everything. Wherever I'm by a population of people, I am somehow that group. So I'm like, that's fine.
I get you, John, because every once in a while, when I'm letting people read stuff that I wrote, or I read one of my pieces, because that's one of the things I used to do on TikTok and on Instagram. I would read it out, and if you got a little too Spanish, you get that. Oh, what is this? How come you're going in that direction? And then my Spanish people would be like, you call this Spanish?
The one time I really got into a fight because it really made me mad. Somebody was just like, oh, these are just stereotypes. I'm like, no, it's not stereotype. It's culture. Like, it's a cultural thing. It's not a stereotype thing. And then, like, I kept going back and forth on him on what that meant. And then I was like, why am I wasting my time? Like, have you read my book? And he was like, no. And I was like, buy it, and then I'll fight with you. I was like, but until you've read it, like, you don't know. I was like, my mom was a mariachi singer. I was like, my dad owns a torteria. Like, we enjoy these things. And the guy was just like, yeah, but it just feels like you wrote about it because, like, other people enjoy it. I was like, no, I wrote about it because, like, they're parts of my life. I was like, all right, guy. But there's a lot of that. Yeah.
I don't get it.
People should be able to write whatever they want. It doesn't matter if,
yeah,
if I wanted to write, a story about a Spanish family, I should be allowed to. If I want to write a story about an Australian family or whatever it is, you should be allowed to write whatever you want.
Yeah.
And say whatever you want.
Let the work speak for itself.
Yeah.
And as a writer, and I tell this to people all the time, as a writer, we do research. That's what we do. We're writers. We do research. And I'm not going to say that all writers do it, because there's some stuff that I've read and I sit there going, what the but as a writer, you're supposed to do your research. I feel like people will take that whole thing with write what you know, and they go in a whole different direction with it. But I feel like write what you know means that you do the research, you understand what it is, you know what it is, and then you write it.
For me, I think write what you know. I started there, but my newer stuff, it's completely different than who I am. It doesn't really reflect my values or any of that. It's a story I'm telling it from a character's perspective.
Right, but you've done the research, so now you know what you're writing, and you're still writing what you know.
Well, for fantasy, you don't have to do as much research all of the time. Sometimes you're creating a magical world, so you can basically do whatever you want.
Yeah, you're right. You're completely right. Even though you're going to have those fanboys going, that's not how it works.
It depends on the story. Like a zombie story is going to have more rigid structure to it than a world with dragons and stuff.
Oh, believe me, I know enough of those fantasy guys that'll come after you just because you did the dragon the wrong way. Oh, yeah, I get a lot of freaking comments.
Yeah, me too. It's
I've
learned to ignore them. For like or somebody would just say something. There's a damn video game called Brawlers, and the first two characters you unlock, one is like a skeleton guy in a mariachi hat, and the second one is a lucha wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And every comment, every video I post, somebody will be like, "Oh, is this character from this game?" I was like, first of all, it's a mobile game. It's not like a game that everyone has. It's like a game for your cell phone. I was like, second of all, I have no idea what this game is. I downloaded it because I thought it'd be funny for me to talk about it and play it.
Uh-huh.
But that backfired terribly because everyone's like, oh, now he's aware of it. I was like, in the video, the first thing I say is like, I'm playing this for you guys so you can stop commenting it. I am aware of this thing. I was like, but my guy's not a skeleton. He's an actual mariachi singer. Like, he's a person. I was like, this wrestler is just a wrestler. Mine is like a dad on the verge of a panic attack. We are very different stories here. We just happen to have same like cover. And they're just like, yeah, but like the odds of the two things are the two biggest things in Mexico.
That's when people say that the odds, I'm like, dude, all the stories have been written. It's just that we're writing it in a different way.
What you could do to mess with him is do an issue where it's Halloween and he's dressed up as a skeleton with the mariachi stuff. Just screw with them.
I'm gonna do a cover, and I'm gonna put both the guys on that cover. I'm gonna do a poster, and then everyone that comments it, I'm gonna like tag them in it and be like, "Do you want to buy this poster?" That is a very good idea because I am so tired. I got a notice like 2 minutes ago, and I checked it, and it was somebody just the character's name is Focal, and he posted it there. I was like, I'm gonna find the developers. I hope they're at New York Comic Con. These developers.
Oh, that'd be funny if they are. You.
Yeah, it could be that Spider-Man thing where we're all pointing at each other. Yeah,
folks, as you can tell, we are having a blast. We're geeking out, and you guys need to go check both these people out at New York Comic Con. And in order to do that, John, why don't you tell the people where they can find you at New York Comic Con and online?
So we're going to be in the small press section of New York Comic Con. So that's on the main floor. We're right between the TikTok shop and the Marvel booth. It's table 1941. So 1941. We'll be there all 4 days. Yeah.
Good number.
And online on all socials at Avina Comics. I post regularly on everything because I don't know what else to do.
I feel you. Go ahead, Kristina. Tell them where you can find you.
So I will be in Writer's Block, WB 18. I think it's right next to Artist Alley. So like when you go into the Find Artist Alley, I'm right in like the front row. So you're going to be walking right past me. So instead of just walking by, stop by my booth and say hi.
Say hi. Yeah.
As for where you can find me online, KristinaGarlick.com. I think you can see my thing on the screen. And I'm very bad at posting on media, and I will try to get better. If you email me, though, or message me on any of my platforms, I will reply back.
Yes, that's an unusual thing, right? You know, people talk to you and you talk back.
I do. Unless they get super creepy, then I don't.
I've seen that. Yeah, people are creepy. Yeah. I can write a whole story about it. Maybe I will.
Feet pictures and all sorts of things. No.
We're showing feet?
No, that they asked if they could get feet pictures, and they will not.
I want Ralph's feet pictures.
Nobody wants Ralph's feet pictures.
There are several Wikipedias that beg to differ.
Oh my God.
He has a couple of them already. Let's just say he's been in your room while you were sleeping.
Oh, yeah, I figured that one out.
And you're missing a bunch of right socks, not the left ones. For some reason, he only steals your right socks.
There was that time when we were coming back from a convention, and you were just knocked out of there.
Yeah.
Let's just say I paid for that weekend. I paid for that weekend. You're welcome.
So, folks, when you guys are at New York Comic Con, the guys from Wayward Raven will be there. And right now, you can go sign up to get notified for their We Suck at Comics. And I will have my first published work in We Suck at Comics. It'll be a prose piece done with a beautiful Shadow Rabbit art piece. He's actually doing art. It's not his usual art, which is the clay. It's him actually on paper doing something for this piece that I did. So that's a double thing there. So go sign up to be notified. It helps out the project. Usually if they can get to 100, it puts them in a great place with the algorithm. So go get there. I think there are 66. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Yep, 66. So go help them out and say hi to them at New York Comic Con. I will be there, and I'm going to be making a couple of videos from there, talking all about We Suck at Comics.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Much appreciated. Mr. Nat, am I forgetting anything?
There's a lot of things, but a lot of them are also going to New York Comic Con, so you can see them all there.
And we will be covering a lot of these people at New York Comic Con. Thursday is going to be busy as hell for us because I usually do the little videos and then post them on Instagram so people can see who's there and all the people that we know and talk a little bit about what they're doing and show off where they are. We are going to be busy. So look out for those beautiful videos on Instagram and check them out. There are going to be a lot of videos up there. I'm going to talk to Kristina and John while we're there. And we're going to do a nice little wham stand piece, me and John, because we like his stuff. Is that everything, folks? I feel like I'm forgetting some stuff. But it doesn't matter because we're on tomorrow on a special written writ where we got the biggest Ouija board, or at least the guy who made the biggest Ouija board, and the museum that's showing it off in Salem. And they're going to be talking to us about the Ouija board and Salem and the museum. And you may have other guests show up. Yeah.
You can ask it some questions?
I don't think so. I avoid Ouija boards on purpose. I will not be playing with that.
Oh, come on. It's remote. You'll be okay. Maybe.
Yeah, that's how the horror movies start.
It'll be a good story.
Oh, next thing you know, something's coming out of my computer. Oh my God. Folks, New York Comic Con is this weekend. We're going to have a blast. Check out all the socials. We're going to be doing a bunch of different videos and stuff. I got some ideas planned. I think Nat has some ideas planned. And you will see most of us there, I think. I think we're all there one day or another, right, Nat?
Should be. I mean, you and me are all there.
Yeah, we're there for all 4 days. Shadow's gonna be there on Thursday and Saturday, and I think Tony, if you can find roaming Tony, you will find him on Thursday. That's all I'm gonna say. If you find him, take a picture with him. Tony's gonna hate me for that.
So I'll take a picture with him if I find him.
Dude, if he passes by, go, hey Tony, come here. Yeah, because we usually end up with like little pictures and videos of it. A little bit. That's it. Yeah, to the point where like, look, Tony, you're gonna be on Thursday. Take a video yourself and then send it to me, and then I'll put you in the trailer. All right, folks, this has been a special edition of Apple Bites. Hopefully, I love the apple that we took a bite out of. Hopefully, you love the apple that we took a bite of. Till next time, I will leave you with, wow, what is it? This video over here? Yeah, that's usually the end. You know what? We'll throw the end. So all you people